Hi, my name is Alexandre Mahutte. I'm the director of Faire, otherwise known as Building a Nest. I conceive ideas when, any ideas I conceive are just pop into my head. And important elements for me in the script include the story and the dialogue, because the script needs to have a good story, and of course the dialogue needs to sound natural. The motivation behind making this film was that I wanted to make a film about my sister and I cleaning up the house because the house was in part because the house was a mess. And so I figured that we could do something productive. And number two, I wanted to improve my filmmaking skills in the summer of 2020, given that I'm a filmmaker. That was that. The journey of this project was actually a very cool one. I wanted to make something that I could send to a festival because once again I wanted to improve my filmmaking. And initially it was supposed to include multiple members of my family cleaning up the house, but it eventually ended up being just my sister and I, because I figured that I didn't really need multiple people. I could just use two. And the only real challenge I faced while making it was I was filming it on a broken tripod, so I had to adjust the camera from time to time, and that was painful. But otherwise, it was a fun experience making this movie. The only funding I did for this film was I paid a company to do the subtitles, and that's. And I don't know what directors should keep in mind before seeking funds. I guess one of the things is they need to make a project that they can afford, and I could afford this, given that this is almost a no-budget film. The only money I spent was on the subtitles. How do I see I think the distribution of independent film in current times is rather interesting, given that there's less theatrical, given that there's less of a market for theatrical distribution during COVID-19. But I think it should improve given the economic recovery after the pandemic. And my plans for this film is just to show it to festivals right now. I don't think it's going to get a theatrical distribution. I'd love it if it does, though. But this is a student film, and I'd be happy if it gets into as many festivals as possible. How different from what I originally envisioned this film being was, as stated earlier, was just my family cleaning up the house together, but it ended up being just my sister and I, because I figured that it wasn't necessary to include the other family members. And this film originally was not going to have a poem. I decided to add the poem instead, because I thought it would be a good setup, and I'm really happy with how that turned out. Audiences should watch this film. Audiences should watch this film because it's a very inspirational film. It's something people need during the times of COVID-19, and it shows that people can get through challenges together. And I want to tell any emerging filmmakers that you got to persevere. A lot of people are going to tell you that you can't do it, you can't make it far, but you just gotta have a drive for producing films, and you'll get through that. Moreover, your first film is not going to be perfect, and you got to be aware of that. So don't be too disillusioned if your first film doesn't look like a Spielberg film, for example. It's gonna look a little amateurish, sure, but it's like your first piano lesson. At first, you're not gonna be pretty good, but the more you practice, the better you'll become. Practice makes perfect, and I wish luck to all the members of the 5th Indian World Film Festival, and to all the filmmakers who submitted their films, and that's my message.